Hi everyone, my name is Bella and this is my presentation on the Midlands. First, I'll be sharing my identifications from the freshwater marsh. First up, we have the Ludwigia species. So here we have 4 yellow petals with lanceolate leaves and red-purple stems. I'm confident that this is in the Ludwigia genus, but I'm not confident in the species. It could be water primrose, which would be Ludwigia octovalvus, because it has 4 yellow petals, 4 green sepals, and occurs near freshwater. However, I wasn't able to notice if there's any hairs on the leaves or the stems. But a fun fact is that this genus contains around 82 different species, and they usually produce bright yellow flowers like we see here. And these flowers are actually able to close themselves in cold weather to protect from harsh conditions. This is pitted stripeseed or Parachaeta cystoides, subspecies caroliniana. It has 5 yellow petals on the flowers and 3 stigmas in the center, along with alternating dark green leaves, which is how I was able to identify it. And a fun fact is that the fruit actually explodes when it becomes ripe, and this helps to scatter the seeds rather than having them rely on animals to disperse them by eating it. Next is pickerel weed or Pontidaria cordata. So this has purple flowers that surround a flower spike, heart-shaped leaves that are found in aquatic environments. So this was actually named from the pickerel fish, which people think normally coexists with this plant. Here we have cattail, which is Typhus species. I wasn't able to identify it further than the genus, just because there are some really specific traits that you need in order to identify it past the genus. But it has a cigar-shaped brown spike of flowers that have flat, long leaves, and they're found in lakes all over the state of Florida. And a fun fact is that cattails can generally be grown from seeds or rhizomes under the ground. Next, we have the common arrowhead or Sagittaria latifolia. And this has arrowhead-shaped leaves that are made of 3 lobes at the end of long stalks, and they're also found all over Florida. They have a fun fact, which is that while most individuals are monoecious, with both sexes being on the same plant, there are some populations that are dioecious. Here we have water lettuce, or Pistia stratioides. These are floating aquatic herbs with large light green leaves that have vertical veins running down each leaf. They're found in Central and South Florida lakes, and based on this plant's distribution, it can be assumed that they would prefer to grow in more alkaline, hard water, nutrient-rich lakes rather than other areas. Next, we have pond cypress or Taxodium ascendens. This is a tree that becomes more narrow as it gets taller, with needle-like leaves, and it's often found in wetland habitats. And a fun fact is that there's evidence that suggests the Taxodium genus used to be very widespread in North America, and pond cypress specifically evolved to fill a niche in wetlands. And for our last plant, we have common duckweed or Lemna minor. Now these have small, light green, circle-shaped leaves that float on the water's surface, and they're typically found in freshwater marsh habitats. A fun fact is that each inflorescence has 2 microscopic flowers that are rarely ever seen, so it's not something that you would normally see from the naked eye. Now we have the first of many birds. So this is the red-shouldered hawk, or Buteo lineatus. So they have light yellow feet, they have solid white bars on their tail feathers, and rusty brown shoulders, and they're found in Florida usually at the edges of clearings near bodies of water. And a fun fact is that during the summer, these hawks will usually hunt cold-blooded prey like amphibians and reptiles, but then during the winter, they'll hunt warm-blooded prey like small mammals and birds. Here we have a turkey vulture, or Cathartes aura. They have a light red face with dark brown feathers, a white section that's seen on the underside of their wings when in flight, and they're found in Florida near woods and open areas. They have an excellent sense of smell, and they're usually pursued by black vultures who lack a sense of smell when finding carrion. Next up is the common gallinule, or Gallinula galliata. They have a red bill, a dark blue neck and underside. They have red-brown tint on their wings, and they're found in waters with abundant vegetation. A fun fact is that there's a subspecies of the common gallinule that's found only in the Hawaiian Islands, called the Hawaiian gallinule. But Hawaiian mythology says that the bird brought fire to humans and that its forehead was burned in the process, explaining that bright red on its beak. Here we have a green heron, or Butyrides fluorescens, but they have speckled white and brown chests with black and yellow beaks. They have green wings and yellow-greenish legs. They're found in vegetation-heavy streams or ponds. And a fun fact is that sometimes they use things like twigs or insects to lure in fish, like they're using bait. Here we have a great blue heron, or Ardea herodias. They have a distinctive dark blue forehead, a two-toned beak, and an overall very large size. And fun fact, this is my favorite bird. No notes. We also have a couple of other birds. We have the great egret, or Ardea alba, and a tricolored heron, or Egretta tricolor. Here we have Needham's skimmer, or Lubellula needhami. And now these guys are really easy to mix up with the golden wing skimmer, but the difference is that these ones have two-tone costas, which are the edge of their wings, and so they have a darker color towards their body and then become a lighter yellow as you go away from their body. Here we have the white peacock, or Anarcha jatrophae. So they have a white forewing with brown bands on the upper side, and they have black spots along their wings. A fun fact is that the male butterflies are territorial, and they can defend their 50 square foot territory against other males. And one of our last animals is the American alligator, or Alligator mississippiensis. So they have a rounded snout and a dark green or black color compared to the crocodile, which will have a more pointed snout, and they're found in freshwater. Sometimes they'll swallow stones to help themselves stay submerged under the water for longer, and it'll also help them grind up their food. It appears that we have a game to play called Who's That Organism? So now raise your hand if you think that you know what organism this might be. Now I can't actually see you, but very good job to whoever just raised their hands. Hopefully you got that it's a belted kingfisher. Yay! If you didn't get that correct, it's okay because no one will ever know. Next up, we have our freshwater swamp ecosystem. Next up, we have laurel greenbrier, or Smilax laurifolia. So they have dark green lanceolate leaves with prickles on the stem. They're found in Florida in ecosystems that sometimes experience flooding. And I'm confident in the Smilax genus, but not 100% confident in the species, because the underside of the leaf was not photographed, but it would need to be a dull green with a prominent midvein. A fun fact is that they're extremely flammable, which is probably why they're often found in wet environments. This is Cyropodon incompletus. It's a small dark green moss that's found growing on the surfaces of trees, and they have multiple slender leaves that radiate out of short stems. And they can be considered an indicator species for wetlands and swamps because they need a constant source of moisture to survive. This is Bartram's airplant, or Tillandsia bartrami. They are an epiphyte with thin gray clustered leaves, and most Tillandsias are monocarpic, meaning that they bloom once before dying, and then the seeds that are inside the flower will then grow and create new plants. Here we have the giant leather fern, or Acrostichum danifolium. They have large leathery leaves that are in a pinnated arrangement, and they have an intensive root system of rhizomes that help protect banks of lakes and streams from erosion. Here we have the brown hair comb fern, or Tinnitus submarginalis. They have pinnate pinnatified blades with bright green leaves found in swamps and wet hammocks in peninsular Florida, and they are native to North, Central, and South America. And here is climbing maidenhair fern, or Lygodium microphyllum. They have pinnate blades with zigzag stems that are found in swamps and wetland ecosystems, and they are actually an invasive plant that's native to tropical Africa and South Africa. The vine is able to cover shrubs and trees to create really dense canopies that can actually damage wetland ecosystems and native plants found there. Here we have lizard's tail, or Cerurus cernus. And now this has dark green heart-shaped leaves that are alternate, and they normally have white flowers that were not present in this individual, but dead red-brown flowers were found hanging from the stem, and they are normally found in freshwater ecosystems in Central and North Florida. And whenever those leaves are crushed, they will have an aroma that's similar to sassafras. Our first animal is the Georgia wolf spider, or Tigrosa georgicola. They have a dark brown coloration on the body with a light yellow stripe in the center of the body that goes from the eyes to the end of the cephalothorax. They're found all over southeastern US in a variety of habitats, and they're called wolf spiders because rather than making webs like most spiders, they will actually chase their prey and then pounce on them like how a wolf would. Next is the dusky pygmy rattlesnake, or Cistruus miliaris barbori. They have black spots on their gray dorsum and white and black scales on the ventral side. And due to how short their fangs are, their bites don't penetrate super deeply into human skin, and usually the total amount of venom that's released in a bite is less than half the lethal dose for an adult human. And last for this ecosystem, we have the peninsula ribbon snake, or Thamnophis sauridus saccani. And they have a thin body with light stripes that go along their back and the sides of the snake. And while ribbon snakes in states further up north go into hibernation, the ones found in Florida don't and are actually active all year, which is the case for a lot of animals that live in Florida versus in other states. And our last ecosystem is salt marsh and mangroves. First up, we have saltwort, or Batis maritima. They have light green, thick, opposite, succulent-like leaves, and they are a characteristic species found in mangroves in Florida. And a fun fact is that this plant is a halophyte, meaning that it's adapted to live in environments that have high salinity, and it also has really deep roots that prevent shoreline erosion. Next is perennial glasswort, or Salicornia ambigua. They have thick, waxy, opposite leaves that come from lobe stems, and they are found along the East Coast states and are another characteristic mangrove species. And an extremely interesting fun fact about them is that they're considered rare or endangered in New Hampshire. The first mangrove is white mangrove, or Laguncularia rasmosa. They are distinguished from the other mangrove species by having two glands, which are sugar glands, at the base of the leaf, which you are able to see right here at the leaf. And the sap of these trees have been used for treating ailments like headaches, stings, and ulcers, and research has shown that they actually do provide some medicinal value. Next is red mangrove, or Rhizophora mangle. And since these mangroves grow closest to the shorelines, they're distinguishable by their visible prop roots. So these help the trees increase their salinity and oxygen intake for their deeper roots, and they also have the largest seeds of any other mangroves. So fun fact is that their seeds are actually able to germinate while they're still attached to the tree, so that they have a higher chance of surviving in the harsh conditions of the water whenever they finally fall. Last is black mangrove, or Avicennia germinans. They are distinguished by their vertical roots that surround the tree and come out of the water, called pneumatophores. And through reverse osmosis, they're able to filter salt out of salt water and release fresh water. Here we have bushy seaside oxeye, or Borichia frutescens. They have lanceolate, grayish-green, fuzzy leaves that occur on segmented stems, and they occur famously in mangroves. And the species name frutescens means to become bushy in Latin, and that refers to the fact that when the plant's growing, it has a bit of a shrub-like appearance. Last for our plants is crowfoot grass, or Dactyloctinium aegyptium, and they have a seed head that looks like a crow's foot with 2 to 6 fingers that come out of the stem with smooth leaf blades. And a fun fact is that this species is actually found on every continent in the world besides Antarctica, even though they originally come from Africa and Asia. Here we have the southern flatcoil, or Polygyra cereolis. They have ridges in the shell that are similar to a rope, being coiled together, with a brown coloration and black stripes. I could be absolutely sure that it was this species if it had a characteristic tooth at the aperture of the shell, but that was not pictured, so I'm not completely sure. They are able to withstand environmental changes very well, and that's why they're found so commonly in Florida in a variety of habitats that are created by humans. It appears we have another Who's That organism? Go ahead and raise your hand if you know. Alright, if you remembered the first time, I still can't see your hands. But hopefully you got that it's an osprey. It has long crooked wings with a white underside and black and white striped flight feathers, which is why we're able to tell. And here we have the Gulf fritillary, or Agralis vanillae. They have a bright orange color with black spots, and they have 3 distinctive white spots rimmed with black that can be found on the underside and upper side of the forewing. and they are actually able to release an odor when they feel threatened in order to deter predators. And here we were able to spot a dolphin from the family Delphinidae, so I'll play the video. Yep, so that little splash was possibly a common bottlenose dolphin, as they're usually found on the coasts and estuaries in Florida, though obviously I'm not quite sure. All right, we have one last game. What organism do you see in all of these pictures? It might be hard to tell. That's right, it's actually Dr. Clouden. Very good eye, viewers. Thank you all so much for watching my presentation. Bye-bye.